What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dark and Twisted podcast from Bingetown TV. Today, we're here to talk Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 5, titled, Did Ty Do That? You knew the Urkel reference was coming, and we surely got it. We're halfway there. 5 episodes deep. That seems crazy. Maybe it's because they combined episodes 1 and 2. It just feels like it's going so fast. I want it to slow down a little bit. Definitely think this was one of the weaker episodes of the season. I think the beginning was so strong and we're slowing up a little bit in the middle, but it's just that like middle fatigue. They're bridging the gap. Still don't know if Lottie's dead. What do I know?
Oh, she's so dead. How many? Okay. Yeah, Kathleen, they're bridging the gap. Are they using a Ben Scott bridge when they bridge that gap?
Listen, we're going to have to, I'm going back 5 seconds. I didn't see adult Lottie on that table. They showed me young Lottie, but they didn't have the budget for the adult Lottie.
We didn't see her
Who's
face.
To say?
We didn't see her face, but we saw Misty not say, "Oh, that's not Lottie."
Misty did it. That's why. I'm kidding.
Well, jeez.
Okay, before
we're already getting into craziness before the intro's over.
Yeah. So, all right. Why don't you take it? Hit it.
All right. So the intro's done, Kathleen.
Intro's done. My name is Kathleen. Brian and Jimmy, hit it.
All right. So, Kathleen, I do agree with you. I do think that this was the weakest episode of the season. I'll always watch Yellowjackets, love Yellowjackets. Doesn't mean I thought it was a bad episode. I think, Brian, we talked off podcast a second ago, and I think you're going to mimic what I'm about to say. I think that this episode was a little slow, dragging some stuff on. I think my grievances will be aired out while we talk about certain aspects and certain scenes in this episode, but I do think that they are dragging a little bit. Now, give me a banger of an episode 6 and I'm done with my grievances and I'm all good because again, episodes 1 through 3 were straight fire. Episode 4 was still really good and episode 5 is good, just not as good as the beginning of the season. What do you think, Brian?
I'll make it 3 for 3. This was definitely the weakest of the season. What I said before we got on is they're stretching some material. I think both the future plot line and the 90s plot line could have been like each half of an episode, you know? Well, I guess those are 2 different plot lines. Each of them could have been a quarter of an episode, I guess, because half of every episode is 90s and the present day plot line. That was a confusing thought to get out. But I don't know. And it's kind of like what you said, Kathleen. This is kind of the middle of the season lull. This is nothing new. I said last week, Yellowjackets has set a very high floor, and it certainly met that quality of television. But I mean, was there anything of massive substance this episode? I would argue no. I mean, after all the drama with the trial, which was like enthralling, I was hanging on every word that was coming out of their mouths. It's like, okay, so I have to watch 35 minutes of them deciding who picks a card and has to shoot coach, and then he doesn't get shot. It was just a whole episode of not a whole lot of things that I cared about. And again, this was kind of like last episode where the present day plot line was entertaining. We got some more Frodo/Walter, who I love that he's kind of getting back into the fray. So it was entertaining, by no means bad, just good, not great.
Walter Frey. I was like, you said Walter, and then you said Frey in the same sense. Isn't that a Game of Thrones character?
Walder Frey, I believe.
Walder Frey. I was like, what the hell just happened here?
Okay. Wow. Way to kill the momentum. Me.
This has been a wacky intro.
It is definitely a wacky intro. I think the episode kind of lends to that. I do think that we can take this episode as a time to like theorize a little bit more. We definitely, for the first time this season, I think the adult was more interesting than the young. But we want to just hop right into it? Chronological as per usual?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we start off, they're trying to figure out what to do with Coach Ben. Of course, Shauna wants to burn him at the stake. Melissa's backing. Melissa's backing her, and then Nat suggests a firing squad. I don't think I thought it through as much. I just kind of assumed they were going to maybe like slit his throat. Firing squad feels the most maybe humane. I don't even know. What did you guys think of like this brainstorm?
Well, firing squad without a squad because they have one
Right.
gun. So Shauna is just she is really getting darker and darker every episode and shocking me every episode. The burn 'em alive thing. I know that the point is that they say he tried to burn them alive too, but my goodness. I think the big point of this episode for me, where Brian, you were saying there's a lot of 35 minutes of them deciding what are they going to do, how are they going to do it, can they do it. We get a lot of ties worrying, can she do it? But there are certain girls that are still holding on to their humanity, and there's certain girls that are letting it go a little bit. And I think that was very telling in this episode specifically. We see people like Van being like, you just got to do it. I'll help you do it. We have obviously Shauna. We have Melissa. We have Ty, who is really having a tough time pulling the trigger symbolically and figuratively, and literally, I mean. And Jen, that was Jen, right? That was like, you deserve this. So
yeah.
I really do think that there is going to be a time when we will get the less humane people versus the more humane people of the troops of the group that will not be agreeing with each other.
For me, I thought this was ridiculous because it's like, all right, so Shauna's going to be pulling the trigger here, right? Anybody have any objections? Shauna, you cool with this? The first thing that I would establish, if I voted that coach was not guilty, I'd be like, I'm not drawing cards. I don't want to kill him. I was surprised that wasn't established amongst the girls and like everybody participated in the card pool. But again, like the Shauna stuff is getting tiring. I think they're just being way overly heavy handed where she's in a terrible place. She is trying to assert herself as like the alpha aggressor of the group. And Jimmy, you've been theorizing that's leading towards her becoming the antler queen. There better be some sort of payoff for that at the end of the season because it's a tough watch whenever young Shauna is on the screen. I'm going to be honest. I'm just a little bit tired of her having nothing but pure negativity, violence. It's not even rooted in logic or rational thought. So that's kind of what's annoying me. And her immediate knee-jerk reaction, burn him at the stake. All this is to say, I don't know why they weren't like, Shauna, there's the gun. Go do it if you want it done so bad.
Yeah.
Why was the card
necessary? If I'm Nat, I would say exactly what you said, Brian. I would say, as of now, I am the quote-unquote antler queen. I am the leader of this group. And if you want him dead, I was the judge, and I passed your sentence because you forced everyone to vote the other way. If you want him dead, then you do it.
I will say, since they did pull cards, I think Ty was the most interesting selection because, like you were saying, some of these girls, Ty included, are trying to hold on to their humanity, but at the same time, she was the lawyer anti-coach.
Right.
So, like, she was technically leading the charge against coach, excluding Shauna. So her kind of having to face that reality, and she even says it later, it's one thing to say someone deserves to die. It's another thing to be the one wielding the sword or wielding the gun and actually taking them out, which I empathize with, but I also think it's ridiculous they're trying to kill him.
I worry a little bit because I agree with everything you just said, Brian. I think it's tough to watch Shauna. And we know how it ends up. She ends up with Jeff. She comes back. She ends up with Jeff. She has Callie. It's hard for me to visualize a world where Shauna Shipman comes back to Earth and is a normal enough human being to marry somebody. And Jeff's not like, what goes on? Like, she must have really just flipped a switch. But my worry is we love these girls, right? But they are going to keep devolving into madness and savagery, and it's going to make us not like them more and more. And there's a fine line and a balance between making us not like our protagonists. And for anyone listening, I'm doing huge quotes because there are girls. They're trying to survive, but it's hard to watch them devolve like this. And Shauna specifically, who's one of my favorite characters, Melanie Lynskey, Sophie Nélisse, like they're killing it, but the writing and the script is bad. And maybe she turns at some point, maybe something happens, but we did get a mention, which I brushed over last episode, but the mention of, Jackie saying the guilt for what you did when you got home. And
Oh, yeah.
I brushed over that. I must have been writing a note or something, but that's key. So again, Shauna's whole storyline is really like, it's very interesting to watch, but it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And we did touch on this a little bit throughout our podcast that the writers, showrunners did say that we will get scenes, information of what happened once they're rescued and when they're actually home. We know from this season that a young Nat, not Wilderness Nat, after she comes back, gets arrested and has a mugshot. There are
Right.
things that have happened since they got back. And it's, without beating a dead horse, it is tough with Shauna because, especially like you're saying, Kathleen, and I brought this up all the way in episode 1 coverage, it's very jarring, the difference between the two actresses' portrayal of Shauna. And I'm sure it's by design, but to see a young Shauna in 1996-7 in the wilderness holding knives up saying, let's burn somebody at the stake. And then we have, I'm going to get the manager, let me talk to the manager energy, Shauna, who's like more wacky. And obviously we see some darkness in certain spots, but to me, it's like so separate. I don't even see them as the same person right now at this moment.
So I kind of want to continue with Shauna because there's this underlying plot line of her and Melissa's relationship growing. And I think it's a double-sided coin because while Melissa is certainly encouraging Shauna's worst impulses and gassing her up, burn him at the stake, I'll just hold the pitchfork in the background, she is also, you could argue, helping her hold on to that humanity because there is a level of affection between them.
Yeah.
And there was another one of those sour but sweet moments where Melissa comes with it's like a knife holster with flowers that I made this for you. Shauna's knee-jerk reaction is to turtle up and be like, I really wasn't looking for company right now. But then she's like, oh crap, I kind of like Melissa. That was a nice gesture. She's at my back. And they kind of have this nice moment. So I'm trying to figure out if Melissa is a good thing for Shauna or if she is a really, really bad thing for Shauna, because I'm not sure if she would be so bold if she didn't have at least one person that she knows was in her corner.
Right.
Yeah. How about when Melissa was like, you let Jeff and Jackie treat you like shit, basically? And I was like, okay, she's not too scared of Shauna because you wouldn't say that to Shauna if you were really scared,
Now, Kathleen,
Tell me.
I'm asking, Jeff and Jackie, why say them in the same breath? Is it just because they're saying Jackie was your friend, or and Jeff was the guy you were with? I almost took it like not confirming there was a relationship or anything, but like because they are now getting to be a thing, I almost took it like she was kind of undermining Jackie because she thought Shauna liked Jackie or vice versa or the same.
Oh, I didn't know what you were quite asking. Okay. It could be read. I'd love to read it that way, but I didn't read it that way. I just read it as like her best friend. And obviously the reason why they fell out is because she was having sex with her best friend's boyfriend, Jeff. So,
I'm in agreement with Kathleen. I think that's a stretch. Everybody knew that Shauna and Jackie were
Love it, though.
BFFs. And to be fair, no lies were told. Jackie I feel like if you were in the friend group, you would know that Jackie kind of disrespected her in some type of way. And that Jeff definitely did while they were still in high school. Try and keep that on the low because he preferred being open with Jackie in the relationship and kind of having Shauna as a side chick. So Melissa correctly pointed out both of those things about Shauna. And then she continues on saying, I love how you've changed here, and kind of embraced what you might consider to be your worst aspects, something like that. And then Shauna uses that and manipulates it later to get Melissa to do some cray stuff.
Yeah.
I had to rewind that because it was so dark. I was watching on my computer because it's the screeners, and I was like, "What did she just cut?" Achilles, right?
Achilles. Yeah, the Achilles, man.
Oh, brutal. I almost made a joke, but I didn't want to make a joke last week of being like, if they really wanted to like punish him, just take his other leg. Like it'll be the worst thing ever to not be able to move at all, and that's basically what they did. They cut his Achilles, and
yeah.
I mean. any sort of injury like that, it's like that he might just die of sepsis or infection or anything like that. It's like it's crazy.
Before we finish up with Shauna, I know we're obviously going to talk about her a little bit more at some point, but Shauna is the first person that is devolving and changing and moving towards the darkness. And there's something that eventually makes enough of them do that, where we get the pilot scene with Pit Girl.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is. We don't know if they're forced to be that way. We don't know if Shauna does do the hostile takeover and say, we got to do what we got to do. What we do know, though, is Lottie let Shauna beat the hell out of her because she said, get it out. We need you. Lottie has visions. Lottie has premonitions. Has Shauna already done what she needed to do, or they need her? Or will it get to a point where things get so bad in the second winter that they need more of a Shauna type leader? I don't know. I mean, I think there is something to be said about the fact that Coach Ben will never not lose his humanity, no matter how bad it got. He lost his leg. He was starving. He was seeing hallucinations. He would not eat human. And he did not want to. What? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to check you. That was a triple negative. Never not lose, which would mean he will lose his humanity, if I'm not mistaken.
Not lose. Never loses humanity. Never not loses. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. You're saying he will never lose. He will always, never. Let's put it this way: he's always going to keep his humanity.
He is always going to keep his humanity, Brian. Thank you. And we see that towards the end of the episode. And for whatever reason, the girls decide to become what they become. And someone like Coach Ben decides to stay who he is.
Yeah, it's a great point. We'll just have to see, I guess. You know what I mean?
Coach hasn't embraced the darkness yet. I mean, at this point, why would you? So I like that theory. Do we want to switch to maybe Van and Ty's storyline here? I mean, it was definitely significant. It's good that Van is kind of that confidant for her. And when she's struggling with having to be the one to pull the trigger, so to speak, Van is the one that's like, yo, I got your back. We'll talk it out. And of course, it's easy enough for Van to say, you just got to do it, which isn't the best advice. But then she's like, hey, you kind of uniquely have this wild other half that you can somehow summon. Why don't we try and get a grapple on that and use this other tie to your advantage, which I actually think was a very smart move. I'm not sure what this is going to unleash, but in the final scene, clearly the other tie, which they weren't expecting, did make an appearance.
Yeah.
But
laugh.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I don't know. It'll be all right. Like, I don't know, man. And
Bale, Bruce Wayne voice, so
funny.
Voice.
It's just so funny to me because when Ty jokes about it halfway through the episode, it's exactly what is done. And it's almost like I'm going to laugh both ways. But quickly, let's just talk about Van, and then we'll get into that too. Van, to me, we talked about it last episode. We talked about the visions, the fire in her eyes, the trial with her looking. Brian, you put it very nicely how she was just having that wild look in her eyes during the trial when things were getting a little crazy. This episode, I have been seeing it a lot more. I don't know if I'm specifically looking for it and I'm just like tunnel visioning Van because it's my theory, but just watching Van, to me, it just seems like she is one of the girls that is getting closer to the darkness along with Shauna.
Yeah, the only thing that I clocked, and maybe this isn't exactly what you were saying, but right when her and Ty kind of go off on their own, Ty is sharing, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Van's first thought is, wait, you're not starting to think he's innocent, are you? Something like that. Like, she was very quick to be like, you're not having second thoughts about that part of it, are you? Other than that, I mean, I don't know if
Well,
she's getting more feral or wild look in her eyes, but she's very lackadaisical about these proceedings. Like she is very much, yeah, we're killing coach. What's the big deal? Pull the trigger, keep it rolling, Ty.
Well, think about it here. I agree with you fully. When it comes to the tie stuff, she was very nonchalant about it, which could be telling, or it could be that she's just trying to help her girl out and try to
Yeah.
make it seem like you can do this. I know it sucks, but you can do it. But to me, when coach was against the tree and they were deciding if they were going to put the bag back on his head, and he was like, you got to look me in the eyes if you're going to
Yeah,
do this.
yeah.
And Jen wasn't sure what to do. It's Van that they keep showing and putting the camera on where she's going, do it, do it, do it, like 3-4
Yeah.
times when everyone else is kind of like feeling all like sad about it.
So the only saving grace I think here is that Van wants this trial and the proceedings to be complete because she knows Ty lit the fire. And
If we're correct.
if we're correct, and that's the assumption I'm working under, and I'm hoping, because watching Van and Ty isn't that fun for me. Like, I used to love Ty. Was my favorite character in season 1. Such a natural leader, tough as nails, breaks Allie's leg or whatever she does in the first episode. I was so drawn to her. They kind of made her fade to the back, and the full storyline with her is this kind of like alter ego almost. And especially in the adult timeline, like my eyes start glazing over a little bit in that storyline, just because it feels like, to me, I'm like, I don't know that other Ty. I don't, you know what I mean? What's her
Who's that
intentions?
chick?
I don't know,
other
something about it.
the other Ty used to be a lot more interesting when she was coming out at night shoveling dirt and like trying to map out the trees and stuff. Like now
Yeah.
it's just okay, so she's got this other thing going on who's got a little bit of sass to her. She'll pull the trigger. Other Ty, yeah, other Ty is crazy. And now that's going on in the future. I agree with you. It's a little bit. I'm good with it. I need some progression there. I need a little bit
Yeah.
of fire coming from Van and Ty.
And I think the problem here, and please interrupt me, correct me if you don't agree, but I think when we're talking about dragging, one of the things I'm worried about is they're dragging this, is it supernatural versus is it not supernatural thing. I feel like we need something that can let us know, because even other Ty, you can literally just say it's a multiple personality disorder. And if we're getting into, is it supernatural, is it not, and they're believing it's supernatural, and Van's going up to Ty and being like, hey, conveniently you have this other side of you, let's see if we can like knock on her door and see if she'll come out to shoot Coach Ben in the face.
Yeah.
When we haven't ever seen her except apparently when you're sleeping or something, right? So I don't know. And then we get to the scene and it's like, it'll be all right. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really understand here what we're doing.
I think the weird part is, obviously this is the beginning of being able to summon the bad one, or the melding of these two characters. And obviously, when we get to the later timeline, like Sammy looks at adult Ty and is like, yo, that's not mom. That's the bad one. That's the one that lives in the tree. And when did it become that she can talk normally and she's,
Right. She's
maybe
not.
even Van doesn't even know if she's talking to the bad one or not. And that's where I don't love it. It's like, you either talk like this the whole time, or,
Right.
I can buy that maybe other Ty with more experience being in control of the body can kind of learn and adapt to human interactions and know how to
Sure.
blend in a little bit better. That I can buy. What I a little bit disagree, you said it might be leading to a point where they can freely summon this other Ty or a melding of the characters. I disagree with that because future Ty still seems clueless about the
Right.
relationship between her and the other Ty, and has since the beginning of the series. So they're both in the 90s leading us towards that. Like, oh, let's figure out a little bit more about this connection. But at the same time, we already know in the future, she doesn't seem to know what's going on still to this day and is searching for answers. So that's very weird to me.
And you have to assume, unless they're pulling like a Fight Club where she really doesn't realize when other Ty comes out. When we first meet other Ty in the early seasons, Ty says, I haven't slept walked and done this in a very, very, very long time. So she assumes other Ty hasn't shown up in a very, very, very long time. And somehow she's back in the present day. So I agree with you, Brian. It doesn't seem like she ever gets to the point where she can control it. But I just think that we're beating around the bush a little bit too much on just the arguments are going to go forever about if this is supernatural or not. Just let me know now. I feel like I'm getting there. Now, again, if it's going to be 5 seasons, we're like right at the halfway part, almost exactly at the halfway part, right? 2.5 seasons in. I know that halfway there's still a lot more to tell.
Yeah.
But it's like in the fandom, I know that there's diehards, it's supernatural, there's diehards, it's not, and then there's people in between like us. But I don't know. I don't know if it's dragging or not. I can't. It felt like that in this episode. I didn't feel it until this episode to me.
I don't think you're getting that answer till the season is done. The series is done, really. I don't think.
Geez.
But
well, I hope not for that.
Let's move forward a little bit. I want to give Samantha Hanratty some props. This scene with Misty and Ben was so good. It had me tearing up, which is rare for this show. I mean, giving the last meal, the crying, I was laughing at her being like, you're my first boyfriend and amputation. Funny like Misty, sad like, this is Ben's last moments. Supposedly, obviously, we know that he doesn't die at the end. This is devastating. Anytime we saw Ben, my heart was hurting when he was talking to Akila about the goats and things like that. I just can't believe that these girls just like have him here. They're ready to kill him. It's unbelievable. And when he's crying for his life, like he's being like kind of like pissed about it. And then at the end when they put the bag back on and he's just saying like, no, please, please, please. Like I'm actually begging.
Yeah.
Really good stuff from both actors, honestly.
Oh, Coach Ben's actor has gotten material this season and he's been killing it with what he's been given. He is doing phenomenal with his monologue. Brian, I know you love that. And then this episode too with the range where he's showing exactly how I thought he would react. That was my thought. The first part of his reaction when he's like, this is crazy. You're putting a gun up to my head. Like this. That was exactly what I thought was going to happen during the trial. And then, of course, turning it into what you were saying, you hoped he wasn't going to do, Brian, during the trial. And that was, pleading but he knew it was time. It was the moment. Right. But the range from Coach Ben's actor. And then, of course, Misty, Samantha Hanratty, that was a great, great scene.
Crushed.
And it was earned too. It's funny how Misty and her's relationship has developed to obviously this girl who thinks there's a realistic shot that they can be together or something like that, to him kind of blowing her off. And now it's like she's acknowledging, yeah, I had a crush on you, but I was getting the feeling she was just like, you're just a good man. Like my silly high school crush aside, like there's an admiration there aside from just a silly crush. And like you said, like all the flowers to the actors. Samantha Hanratty is Misty's name. She's been phenomenal since season 1. I have loved watching her just act out this character. And like you said, Coach has been killing it with some great material. So Coach's scenes this episode have been the best scenes. And I appreciate the scenes when he's just in the pen, like a defeated man, cradling this goat. It's just been fantastic. Terrible, but fantastic.
Shout out to Steven Krueger.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let's shift before we get to the moment he's saved, obviously, and why. So Lottie, Travis, and Akila go to the caves, and let me give you your flowers and let me shovel Crow down my throat because I think Travis made the Akila thing up now. Yep. I was such in the camp that Travis didn't make it up. I got to go back and rewatch that moment because y'all were so convinced and I was so convinced the other way. Travis sold Akila up the river, down the river, whatever the phrase is. She's in the river. Dunked.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I feel really good about that too, that Travis is really the one that has a connection and Akila got sold out, but Akila's definitely seeing something.
Mm-hmm.
but can we just chalk that up to we argue everything? Is it supernatural or is it just this, that, or the other thing? Was it just really hallucinogenic gases that were affecting Van,
Right.
Shauna, and Akila? That could very well be the thing. And if that's the case, then these are going to be like false prophecies that Lottie is going to go out of her way to try and make true. So that's kind of an interesting thing. It did seem maybe a little bit that Lottie was getting wise to Travis's
Yes.
deceit. And she's like,
Agreed.
okay, what's going on here? But for the time being, and I don't even know what leverage she would have to attack Travis in that scenario. I don't know. From my 2 cents, good on Travis for trying to keep that craziness at arm's length. He's like, I've been through a lot. I'm going to maybe sit this one out, but I'm going to keep an eye on Akila after stabbing her in the back.
Exactly. Travis puts Akila wherever she needs to go on the river, Kathleen, up or down.
Up or down.
And, he goes with them because he does feel the need to make sure she's safe. And Lottie says, it's like the Oracle of Delphi. It's either, the gas and the mushrooms, they're conduits for our visions, for these hallucinations, are visions that we are being given from the wilderness, and they're being given to us by these conduits. And it's a great point, Brian. If Travis is lying and Akila isn't actually connected to the wilderness, does her hallucination even matter? Right. Is everybody connected to the wilderness? Is nobody connected to the wilderness? What wilderness, Kathleen? Right?
Well,
there's so much here that we just don't understand. But I will say that, this proved to me that Travis was very worried for Akila's well-being because he was the one who sandbagged her. And I will say, Lottie, and this really doesn't mean anything, but I'm just trying to notate things. Lottie seems to be wearing on her shirt, like over her dress that she was wearing, the netting that goes over the Antler Queen in the final iteration of the Antler Queen, the one that goes over the antlers. Now, that doesn't mean it's Lottie's. It doesn't mean they can't make another one, but just wanted to point that out. Now, let's get to this hallucination, right?
Yeah.
Akila walks in to the cave. She doesn't even have to start crawling yet. The gases get her before she even gets to anywhere she needs to crawl. She could have been going somewhere different. We don't know. But either way, she falls while Travis and Lottie are arguing about what to do next. One of the first times I'm seeing Lottie be more pushy. Usually she's very passive. This time she was like being a little pushy, being like, let her do what she's got to do. Don't go save her yet. And then when she's out, he goes to try to save her, and she's like, nope, not yet, that kind of thing. And then Akila sees her vision, and it's Coach Ben as a bridge, and Akila is on the bridge. And I hope you guys agree with me. You let me know if you do or you don't. The thing that she sees through the clouds, I heard honking of cars, horns, and it looks like a city.
Okay.
Totally agree. But again, we can go back to it being like, is it Akila? Does her vision matter? Is she dreaming and hallucinating Coach Ben because they're about to kill him right now? You know what I mean? It could just be top of mind. Either way, it saves our boy. Lottie thinks he has purpose. That you guys knew he was going to be saved, right? I was like, there's no way after Coach Ben was part of Lottie's hallucination and storyline that he at gunpoint, I was like, something's going to happen. They're going to come and try and save him. Right.
Yes, I agree. Once I saw the hallucination, I thought,
exactly.
Alive.
I didn't guess it early.
Yeah. Even once Travis, Akila, and Lottie split off, I was like, some of Lottie's nonsense is going to save Coach. That's where this is headed.
Exactly.
I don't like Travis's wig, Kathleen. I don't think it's
Is it a wig?
It looks like a wig to me. I thought it was an awful wig. What am I, just making shit up now?
I am the wig queen. I will get back to you on episode 6.
Okay, get back to me. It looks like Alves is in freaking The Magicians.
Does not. It's not that. No, that's the most obvious wig in the world.
So A couple of things I just want to note. Number one is they're in the wilderness. I would love to know how they found these goats. I guess wild goats exist. I mean, I know they exist, but it's very weird. I wouldn't expect them to find goats, but not a big deal. Now, we have the scene where Van is handing out the cards, and I want you guys to clear this up for me. Van hands out the cards so Van doesn't draw, or did Van draw as well?
I think Van drew.
Okay,
Yeah, she drew.
So she's handing out the cards. She gets the tie. Tie goes to draw her card, and Van goes to speak and then stops. I don't know if you noticed this. I rewound it like 50 times, right? And then when Ty and Van are talking in the woods about Ty having to take the shot, Van says, "Trust me, I wish I could have told you not to take that card."
As if she knew it was the card.
That's what I'm getting at.
I did think that comment was weird. I didn't see the thing you rewound 50
Rewind
times,
it.
but I did remember her saying that and thinking, like, that's a weird choice of wording. Like, it's almost if she knew, but then it's like, if you knew, then you could have, like, forced it on somebody.
I'm just saying, like, if you rewind it, she goes to every person and her mouth doesn't move, but when she gets to Ty, she literally is like about to speak and then stops herself.
Like saying, like, don't pick that one.
Meaning, like, yeah, like, right, okay. Exactly.
So you're saying that Van knew which one it was, so she would have never chose it unless she wanted it.
I don't know what that means exactly. I'm just saying it's not like it's rigged because Van would have made sure Ty didn't get it. So I'm not saying it's rigged, but I'm just saying, how did Van know that? What would Van have known?
It's planting the seed that it could be rigged in the future.
Yes, yes. And there
when one of the girls' lives is on the line.
Yes, and there has been talks ever since the drawing with Nat and stuff that, you know, people were saying, did Van know? Do people know when they're shuffling? Is there cheating going on and stuff like that? So this is the first like real evidence we're having that there is some kind of way that Van knows what cards are coming. They use the King of Hearts, the Suicide King, not the Queen. And I want to reiterate here that Jackie's necklace moves from sacrifice to sacrifice. Natalie drew the Queen of Hearts. She was given the necklace. Now, we know that she was saved because Javi died in her stead. But Nat took off that necklace and put it on Coach Ben before the firing squad. So at this moment, Coach Ben has the necklace. So we're just the hot potato necklace. We're just keeping track here.
Yep.
Yes,
Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they put the necklace on. Just one more,
ritualistic craziness.
It's crazy. It just, like, if I'm him, I'm like, seriously, putting Jackie's necklace on me? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been like, let me hold the goat. Just don't shoot the goat. Just let me hold the goat while this is happening.
Honestly, to touch on your goat thing, we had someone in the Discord because Jimmy had said the theory about, is it as we're seeing, like, is everything like the gold hue just a cover of what is actually happening? And I want to say in the Discord, like, speaking of the ghosts, which could possibly not be goats, right? If your theory was correct. Alana/Jimalyn from the Discord, they said, after hearing the theory about the yellow filter indicates maybe that we're seeing in the 90s timeline isn't as nice as it seems. I've decided I want it to be super fucked up. Give me Akila actually holding Javi's skull, not a rabbit, during the trial. Have the perfect houses they're living in actually be crappy shelters made from the burnt remains of the cabin. I want the contrast to be so stark and messed up. We got so much talk in season 1 about how what they did out there was so bad. Show it to me. Make them feral. Right now, things are too normal, and just some vague ritualistic cannibalism doesn't feel dark enough for the hype it's gotten. Have them keep Coach alive, but torture him until it's winter again and kill him to eat him then. Let Melissa snap and straight up murder someone who says something bad about Shauna. I need more. Like,
Alana,
I love it. Just absolutely feeding into it.
They are best friends with Shauna right now in this wilderness, bro. Yeah. And let me just say, I did want to bring this up last episode when the golden hue thing was theorized and I was talking about it. And it's tough because I don't think I want that to be true because it's almost exactly to your point, Kathleen. if it's them being feral and delusional and crazy, are we going to like our girls anymore?
Right. Yeah.
And it's almost exactly to my point from earlier in this episode. At some point, they get to this feralness where they are ritualistically wearing hunting gear with masks, and they're hunting a girl, and they're putting again the necklace on her, and they're gonna kill her, and they're gonna eat her. We know it's the winner again, so is it the winner that changes them, or are they already there and that's going to be a big reveal? But again, it's like, then they're, I mean, when I posted our pic or our clip on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram about Misty and if she's the villain and if we should like her and are we biased, a lot of people were commenting being like, I agree with Brian, and we agreed with Brian too, that all of these girls have something about them where you can be like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
All of them have done something. So while Misty has done a lot, they all may be irredeemable by the end of this. And maybe that's the story that they're telling. And we love these girls, but maybe we won't. And we just have to get used to that fact.
Totally. I'll still love him. I'll ride with him. I'm Team Mari. I could get down with anything, dude. Whatever. Let's go.
Let's go.
The YouTube comments have said, objectively, Misty is already irredeemable, and she's my favorite of the Yellowjackets.
Yeah.
So, like, come on. If I'm rooting for her at this point in the series,
but
they're
we're
always gonna be
talking,
my girls.
we're not talking Misty being like doing her crazy, wacky, bad things. We're talking about feral girls that are now deciding to, you know, it's everything Alana said, which is very cool if that is a reveal. Like, I am in. If that's what you want to do, then do it, meaning the Yellowjackets writers. But if you do that, it's not like you're just being like, wacky Misty, ha ha ha. It's now like, what am we going to see here? What the hell are we going to be watching?
Okay.
I'm almost, part of me is really rooting for that theory to be correct. That the camp is in shambles. These girls are hanging on by a thread. And we know it's going to that at some point. And to our knowledge, only like a handful of the girls make it out of here alive. So like, it's going to get bad. And I'm okay with that because I know it's going to happen. Like, at a certain point, you can't hold on to a whole lot of your humanity. You can hide it and mask it once you get reintegrated into society, but we're going to see some terrible things be committed by some of our favorites here. And
very true.
I think it's coming sooner rather than later.
The Antler Queen at the very end has all of these locks of hair on her wardrobe.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. On that note, let's shift into the adult timeline. So
Lottie's dead.
It's a great little transition because you get adult Misty looking down, and then it switched to young Misty and young Lottie.
Right.
There's two camps. One, they didn't have the budget for old Lottie and she's dead. Two, the better camp, me. Lottie is still alive and kicking. She's fine. But we are at the morgue. Obviously, this is like Misty in her bag. She's blackmailing this guy at the morgue. I love it. He's a citizen detective as well. She's got something on him. He's stealing stuff from past clients, you could say. And ultimately, she gets the evidence, but there is no cell phone, which kind of leads her on this quest. And for a second, we get the girls all in one room. So I was like, yeah, baby, let's go. This is what we need. Misty telling Lottie, Van, and Ty that she's dead. But of course, you know, she doesn't even address Shauna. They're still mad at each other. And
then Shauna immediately is like, you did it. You killed her.
Yeah, exactly. But the key here is, which I didn't think we knew, confirmed obviously last episode because it was the last second, that they say she fell down the stairs.
Right.
So we didn't know if she was stabbed at the bottom of the stairs.
Just the bottom of the back of her head had blood pooling from it.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, Kathleen, I did take this as confirmation that Lottie's dead just because to me, unless you're correct and Misty is the one who did it. If Misty looks at the dead body and doesn't say that's not Lottie, then that.
No, I agree.
Then that's
I agree with
Lottie.
you. I just don't want it to be.
I know.
Just so soon after Nat's death, it feels wrong.
And I don't
dying with secrets I need.
I don't want to be somebody that gossips, but I have heard in the fandom that there may have been some disagreements with Lottie's adult actress and I don't know if it's showrunners, writers, etc. Now, this may just be that it was her time to die and she didn't like it and she didn't agree with it. There were some people posting some things where like the actress was responding to comments where it seemed like there was some shade being thrown. But again, I have no confirmation of this. I don't like to gossip. I'm just reiterating. I'm the messenger of the fandom where I
don't
things.
like to gossip, but here's the tea, guys.
I don't like to gossip, but I like to drink some tea.
For sure.
I'm the last one you're going to see gossiping. I think it's curtains for Lottie. I think this was definitive stuff. If Misty goes to the morgue and is like, all right, time to move on and start going into citizen detective mode, then that's what it is. Some more just horribleness from Shauna. I am so sick of Shauna belittling and bullying Misty because, as I've said in this season's coverage, in adulthood, Misty has done way better than Shauna with the whole Adam Martin stuff. And not only that, Misty has helped her out. So I am just waiting on the heel turn from adult Shauna's character to stop treating her like garbage, but it is what it is. This kind of takes us to Shauna is really convinced, maybe it's just spiteful Shauna, but she seems convinced that Misty was the one that maybe killed Lottie. So when Misty goes out in her car in full-on citizen detective mode, Shauna is in close pursuit, but then she realizes, oh, wait, I'm being followed too. And who is it but our boy Walter Frey, aka Frodo.
That's a chief citizen detective to you, okay?
That's very right. With the leather gloves and the little hula hoop cat in his dashboard.
I love it.
Cash money.
He was in his element, and I was not expecting this team up, but he essentially cuts off Shauna and is just like, hey, listen, if we're talking prime suspects, it's going to be the person who has murdered someone out for no particular reason in the past couple months. It's likely you would be more likely to murder again. So let me question you, yada, yada, yada. And then he essentially suggests, okay, maybe it's not you, but let's team up because you seem pretty invested in this. And that's what kind of propels us into the rest of this storyline.
Can I just say quickly, it's so interesting. As Misty moves to the hotel where she died, we confirmation where that stairwell is. So it's a hotel where she grew up, which was crazy to me. You knew they had money, but I didn't know they were living in a penthouse for years and years and years. It's just so crazy to think of. This is a tangent, but I was thinking about this last night as I shut my eyes and thought about life. I'm like, Lottie grew up in a penthouse. Nat was in a trailer. Like Van had to, like we see her like smack at her mom to wake her up because she's too drunk and can't drive her to the airport. Like the places these girls came from are so starkly different. It's just another thing that's like, they got shoved to live together and they're all coming from somewhere different with different family dynamics and different like upbringings and where they lived and everything. And I was just really thinking, I'm like, they almost don't dive into that as much as they probably should, but it's crazy. I totally forgot that Lottie's family was like super rich.
Yeah.
It makes sense because if you remember, probably pilot episode, why, thank you, Mr. Matthews. He was the one that got them the private jet to fly for nationals. So you knew that she came from money. I have always loved that soundbite. Was it Van that said that? I think it was all of them chimed in like it was a thing. They joked with Lottie because she came from money. But no, Mr. Matthews was apparently the Wolf of Wall Street before Jordan Belford came along. So that's where he accumulated his money. It was a good scene with the bellhop where she's like, oh, yeah, I watched Lottie grow up. I agree with you. It was nice to see kind of that look behind the curtain. And we also get to meet Mr. Matthews, the father. So that was interesting.
Jamie, what did you think specifically of the fact that she has been living with her dad for weeks, but went to Shauna that night and specifically like sought Shauna out for that night or two, whatever, and then kind of, I mean, she got kicked out, but like, what do you think is going on there?
I think there's a possibility, number one, that Lottie might not have the best relationship with her father.
Yeah, of
We
course.
saw that in the very nice flashback that we get with what, not really a flashback, but however you want
Yeah.
to say it, montage with Shauna being Lottie in his eyes, and you know, not understanding her mental illness slash the wilderness, however you want to say it, something
Mm-hmm.
that you could tell he wasn't very nice about throughout her life. So and especially he didn't like her quote unquote cult. So I'm assuming that she didn't have a fun time being around him and probably would not want to be. But also, Shauna asked the same question. It's very important. There is a reason she went to Shauna. It
Yeah.
might not just be as easy as what Walter said and just, hey, she needed a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these girls just do need each other and do need a friend at certain times. They do talk about how they didn't talk about shit afterwards.
Yeah,
But I think there's more to it. There's some more
definitely.
breadcrumbs that we'll get into as we go through this penthouse. Brian, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking part of it had to have been Lottie was drawn to Callie and knew right
Yeah.
when
Oh,
she got
true,
out of the
true.
institution, she was like, all right, I got to start working this girl and getting her onto Lottie's side. So I think that
Yeah.
was part of it. They show in this episode there was a level of a fractured relationship between the father and her. Maybe she had a moment of humanity and was like, okay, I'm not at my best, and clearly my father has some issues mentally going on. Maybe he doesn't need me around him right now. But I don't think Lottie would be the type to put someone above herself. It is interesting how she went directly to Shauna. There is something there. I think Callie's part of it, but
Agreed.
noteworthy.
Good theory.
Very noteworthy. I like the Callie theory. And we have Missy talking to the bellhop. He says everything you said, Kathleen, that she's been there for a long time. She's been there for a couple weeks recently. And he saw her yesterday. She seemed normal. And he talks about the lollipops, which is funny. And
Cute.
then Misty goes up to the penthouse and does her citizen detective thing. And the first thing I noticed here when she's trying to put her coat on the coat hanger, the coat rack, was it was a deer antler coat rack. Did you
Oh
Oh,
notice?
my goodness, that's
I
amazing.
Yep,
love
yep.
it.
So then we have Misty confirm that Lottie pulled cash out of her
Yep.
bank account, the 50,000.
Yeah.
And then we get into her talking with Mr. Matthews, and then we hear Walter in the background, and we get into the the competition.
I love the competition,
Me
but the
too.
big thing here from Mr. Matthews is in one of his, whatever you want to call it. He says like he was basically threatening to the police to make sure they said it was not foul play. He
Yes.
has leverage obviously and relationships. It's a little wonky because it's like did he actually threaten the police with that? But obviously, with his standing and being the Wolf of Wall Street, like you said, obviously he does have that leverage in real life. So maybe it is, and he's like, we're keeping it under wraps. We're not doing no foul play type of thing,
Yeah.
which is obviously it's foul play. Of course, it's foul play. She didn't fall down flight of 5 steps, but
So when Misty was scoping out the scene of the crime, they focus on the scratch marks in the wall. Is there anything we can take from that? I mean, can human nails like carve into that like
I was
that?
thinking the
Is
same
that
thing.
is that maybe evidence pointing to Ty because other Ty has like I don't know,
Hmm.
some sort of feral strength or something like that. She's been known to do some crazy stuff. I don't know. That was we're not getting a werewolf or some shit like that. That would be too crazy.
You
So I
don't
was
know,
just like,
bro.
what is up with those scratch marks in the wall?
Yeah, so something we didn't really talk about in the beginning of the episode for Misty, adult Misty, she does pull some dirt out from under Lottie's fingernails
Mhm.
and takes the personal effects, and then she goes and she sees the scratch marks and she's kind of trying to match it up to see if it's Lottie's. And yeah, like to me, the first thing I was thinking of was, if she's being pushed down the stairs and she's trying to catch her bearings, that's very tough to do those scratch marks. But at the same time, if that's what you're trying to show us, then you could easily devil's advocate that she slipped and she's trying to hold her own and pulls on the wall too. So it's not great.
I can buy it. I just didn't know a human nail
Yeah,
could go
yeah.
through concrete that deep, but they certainly could explain it that way.
And let me quickly ask you this. Say we have the scene with Van and Ty, and Van does kind of say, "Hey, what were you doing during that hour?" What is your response going to be if we find that some of these things are an other Ty? I roll my eyes is my
I'll roll my
answer.
eyes too. I agree.
It wouldn't be good. I wouldn't love that.
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of talk about I want to shout out a Discord comment from Elisa. She said, "I'm kind of bummed about adult Lottie. I really like her character. Of course, they set it up that everyone was in New York City. Ty, Van, Shauna. Everyone has motive. All the aforementioned adults plus Missy and Walter. It should be interesting." And we didn't talk about that fully last episode, that they even had Shauna getting a cat in Manhattan. They're
Right.
getting their pretzel in New York City. So it's like they had them all there. And that little piece of writing about the cat is so funny and dumb that they were like, we're going to make her go to Manhattan for this damn cat.
Yeah.
But they're trying to place her there. So do either of you think it could be one of the girls? And the asterisk there is like other Ty kind of counts. So do you think that it could be anyone of those multiple girls?
Ty's the only one in the realm of possibility for me.
Agreed.
Yeah. We have something that's very interesting when it comes to this TV show and this season, and that is that the showrunners, the marketing team, whoever makes the big decisions for Showtime / Paramount decided to let us know that Hilary Swank was cast for this season, and it's episode 5, and we haven't seen her yet. I don't know. I'm not a marketing person for that kind of stuff, but I understand that it makes people talk because she's obviously a big get, and also it makes you think throughout the season who is Hilary Swank going to be? Is there going to be a connection between the cut breaks and Lottie's death? Is there someone or something actually coming after the girls?
Yeah.
I'll roll my eyes like crazy if it's other Ty. I really won't buy anybody else unless you really want to have a huge heel turn and just be like Shauna's bad or Van's bad. And I really don't think I like that either. So my take is it's going to be Hilary Swank / Melissa / whoever / Coach Ben getting some revenge.
Honestly, I wouldn't blame him at that point. Let him cut the brakes. But I will say that Deadhead Dan said that in the Discord that Walter could have cut the brakes, and we didn't talk about that as a possibility. And I don't know that I fully subscribe, but I do like especially after seeing this episode. But before I was like, that's not bad. Him and Missy kind of had a falling out. So
one of the problems that we've kind of been touching on since season 1 is that they show us everybody who's still alive in the future. So any of the drama that happens there's a very limited pool of characters that could be involved with anything that happens. So I think like whoever killed Lottie, unless they're going to introduce a completely new character, I think one of the names that we've just said in this rant, Melissa, a vengeful Coach Ben, other Ty, is probably going to be the answer.
yeah.
And as a viewer, and maybe we're wrong and it is some crazy twist that we're not foreseeing, but I don't even see how they introduce a random character we don't know yet that would be so impactful to enter into the mix of stuff that's happening. So that's kind of always been a little bit of the problem with this show, is that in the present day timeline, we kind of know all the characters and it's really limited to those people.
Somebody else that I've seen brought up in the fandom and I was thinking about as well is Lisa from Lottie's Cult. She was obviously a target of Misty. She could take that as betrayal now that she's seeing what she saw towards the end of the season. Could she be somebody that Lottie was going to apologize to because she was Charlotte in her name last episode? And it seems like that's somebody from that life. Just something to think about.
Agreed. I think it's
Yeah.
worth talking about because she was a big part of season 2 and then disappeared. She was a named character who witnessed the death. She was very visible during the end.
Yeah.
So,
But then again, the reveal being Lisa. What are your thoughts?
you're right. You're right.
It's tough. It's very, very tough.
Yeah.
And they're gonna give us something, and hopefully we love it. We've loved the Yellowjackets. We'll see, but it is very tough to try to theorize and find something that we will be loving.
The
Yeah.
twist that Lottie dies was a unexpected twist. The who, the why, and the how is going to make or break if that was a good or a bad death for this part of the series. Because
Agreed.
boy, adult Lottie was a great character to have in that timeline. Without her, I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of a void that I really need something to take the place of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, adults, Ty goes to see her son, and Sammy is not having any of it at all. And we find out later that he just says, "You're not my mom." Like,
Mhm.
so you're just not her anymore. So like we brought it up before, but other Ty is in control a lot more than we think in this adult timeline.
Yeah, when I was watching the first scene, when they're out to eat, and Ty's like, they just found out Lottie's dead, and Ty's like, let's get everything on the menu, girl.
Yeah.
Let's eat. Like, she's going nuts. And Van is having this like existential crisis, like everything we survived, and she just died like that. And that's how I feel that Lottie died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're my girl. You're one of the most interesting characters on the show, and you died with all the stuff, whatever, if she died, you know. But her eyes, Ty, meaning, looked particularly red. And I don't know, they were in a restaurant with like the light beaming on her eyes, and her eyes have been red in previous. I think the actress just has that, tint to her eyes. They were like really red and looking like evil. And Simone, that moment between Simone and Van, I was like, I would watch an entire show of that. That's the show. And they had one line betwixt each other. And I was like, that's fire. But Simone says, Sam, it's not my idea. Like, Sammy's been asking for her. So the fact that Sammy's been asking for Ty and then immediately was like, no, I know Tree Mommy, and that's her. That's bad.
Tree Mommy. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It seems like Ty is just like mostly bad Ty all like this whole time.
Yeah, and the scene in the diner where Van's like, "Hey, where did you go for that hour between us talking and then actually doing the carriage ride and pretzels?" And she very unconvincingly is like, "New York, am I right?" Huh. And Van's like, "Yeah, where were you for that hour actually?" So like this is all like Van, the gears are starting to turn. Oh, it's tough. Ty's got a tough she got a tough deal having to deal with other Ty through all the other stuff. I sympathize with it, but woof, that would be bad.
Agreed.
Yeah, and you have to assume that Van will get deeper into being suspicious of other Ty because of now what we're seeing in the 96 timeline where they literally are talking about it openly, where she's like, summon other Ty, and then it'll be all right. So confirmation to Van that other Ty exists in whatever, however that is. I don't know. Supernatural, not supernatural, whatever.
And does that really close us out for the Van and Ty in the adult storyline?
I'd say so.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say was, this is a rewind, but when Shauna is accusing Misty, and Misty's like, why would I do that? What are you talking about? I'm going to kill somebody and then have a meeting to tell you that this person is dead. Van's like, something about that does feel on brand for Misty.
I love it. There were some good little lines in here. Like even the back and forth between Walter and Shauna with the hair. Melanie Lynskey looked like she was having so much fun in that scene. It looked like she was almost breaking, like dodging him, trying to get a piece of her hair. That's probably going to come into play at some point.
Yeah, and
that hair, he got one. So
and then Misty, as soon as she starts getting into citizen detective mode, she puts that leather jacket on.
Oh yeah,
Love
baby.
It.
That Frodo was in his element because that was someone finally calling Shauna up because he was like, I know 100% I did not kill Lottie. I don't even think, Shauna, you know 100% if you didn't kill Lottie. With whatever nonsense you have going on, like, let's just trade the hair and make sure. And she was like, no, absolutely not. So that was good. And then let's just get through this plot line. So it all revolves around the phone. Misty finally gets into the bedroom, is able to find the phone, but Walter got there first. And he's like, oh, yeah, I collected all the data. I made sure to reset it, of course, and I'd be happy to share it. It's funny that to contextualize this whole thing, that he thinks providing Misty with a challenge is exactly what she needs right here. And I guess maybe that's why he would seek out Shauna as his companion for investigating the murder, because he knew that would infuriate Misty even more and add to the challenge element of it. But it seems like both of them reached their tipping point when Misty name dropped Caligula and said, I can't believe I let someone like you bathe Caligula. They both reached their point. Walter was like, I'm out. If you're out, I'm out. I'm not going to play this game. I hope he comes back. And I really think he will. There's going to be a reconciliation here. And I hope Misty comes begging on her knees, like, my friends aren't really my friends. I need you in my life. This was a bad look for Misty. I was so upset she treated him like that.
Yeah. Walter was thinking it was foreplay, and normally it might have been, but Misty is, her friend just died. Sean has been an absolute terror to her as well.
Yeah.
And I just think she's not in the right headspace to accept it. Like, this exact thing pretty much was their original foreplay, going back and forth about Adam Martin, right? And battling each other and getting one up on each other and knowing details. But now it's a different situation. And I think Misty really wants to find out what happened to Lottie, and she doesn't like the interference. She's like, get away from me and let me do my thing.
Agreed.
Okay, but at the same time, he's done the job for her and is willingly offering, just say the word and I'll share everything I have. We can work together. So that part is her just being unintelligently stubborn and wanting to be better than him.
Unintelligently stubborn.
I couldn't think of a better word. She is not unintelligent. There is a better word. Irrationally stubborn.
There you go.
Logically, not logical, because I took it the way Kathleen took it. I think he really believes that he was doing the right thing for her, and he thinks that she likes this. But because it has to do with Lottie, he's poking the wrong bear here. He's tugging at the heartstrings. He's causing some problems, and she's not emotionally in for that, right? She doesn't like that. And then the back and forth where you said they're both out, he really does think and hopes that he says that and she would say, okay, I want to work with you. Let's get back together. But because he emotionally pissed her off, like you're saying, logically, she should say, yes, let's work together. But because he pissed her off so badly, she's like, I'm not working with you. I'm stubborn. I'm going to do it myself. So he caused it by accident, and he obviously didn't mean to cause it that.
We're in agreement. There is going to be a reconciliation. Walter and Misty probably by the end of the season will be back together. And I'm hoping for it. They're good for each other. Last thing I want to do, which we haven't even commented on it, this entire episode, Shauna and Walter are in these ridiculous geek squad. It's Giga guys, but the hat, the like puffer vest, it was so unbelievable. The short shorts that Walter is rocking. Every time they were on screen, I couldn't take them seriously, but it was so perfect. And that's my closing thought.
Rapid fire MVP buzzkill. I'm going to go first because we're rapid firing. No explanation, just MVP and buzzkill. Yep. My MVP is going to be Walter. I just loved him in this episode. He gave good energy. I know I wasn't supposed to explain that. 2, buzzkill. Gonna give it to Melissa. Period. Go on.
I'm gonna go next because I went last time. Took my MVP.
You're such a liar. I went last time, bro.
Then I lie. Whatever. Whoever said I was a truther.
You're being unintelligently stubborn at going second, bro.
Fine,
so
go second.
True.
I don't care.
No, get in. You're up. Go, brother.
Okay. It's going to be MVP, adult Van, because she's starting to get wise to Ty's shenanigans. Buzzkill is going to be young Shauna. As I said, she's getting tough to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna say MVP. I'm gonna give it to Coach Ben.
Nice.
Steven Krueger as an actor, showing that range. Loved it. Sorry, I'm giving an explanation. Buzzkill is going to be adult Shauna, because I can't say young Shauna. Shauna in general has just been a buzzkill so far.
Agreed. That's totally. I think next episode we'll be able to come out of this little lull, and I think it's going to be electric, and I can't wait to see it.
Heck yeah.
But that's the episode. Everybody join our Discord. Keep messaging in there. We love it. Or go on our YouTube. It's just Binge on TV. Comment. We love YouTube comments. We love any sort of discourse. We love talking about Yellowjackets. These are our girls. Our Discord also has so many different shows we talk about. We're covering a bunch of different things under our Bingetown umbrella. We have a podcast called The Core, which is currently covering Severance, which is like episode 7 was like the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. We've got The Traitors is finishing up this week. Our final episodes of The Traitors is on the Unreal podcast. We've got Final Form, which is doing Solo Leveling and Invincible. And then I think that's it. Did I miss one? We've got Wheel of Time coming out. We've got The Last of Us coming up. We've got all kinds of stuff. We're so excited. So links in this bio. You just go into the show notes and you'll be able to get the links to every single one of our shows. Go listen, come hang. We love you guys. We are the Dark and Twisted Bingetown TV podcast. And thank you so much for listening.
Buzz, 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 buzz.
Buzz.